This is Mac OS Ken.
Word of an iPhone order shift, reconsidering iPhone 14, and going on another bug hunt. It is Tuesday, the 20th of September, 2022. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Notion, one workspace for your whole team. Learn more and get started for free at Notion.com. This show is also sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. There are lots of ways that counseling won't work. If you get the wrong counselor, won't work. If you're not ready to fix whatever problem is troubling you, won't work. If you are ready, though, there's BetterHelp. A therapist won't fix everything for you. Rather, they help you find your own solutions. That's why you have to be ready. What's great about BetterHelp, it is ready when you are. They've got hundreds of counselors ready to match within 48 hours. Sessions happen on the phone, the laptop, the tablet. You're not bound by who's around you, and you work together however is most comfortable. I like that. I like how easy BetterHelp makes it to find a therapist, and I like how easy BetterHelp makes it to change should you find your counselor's just not the right fit. I had a bad fit one time with BetterHelp. Could have quit, tried again instead, and ended up with a much better counselor for me. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit BetterHelp.com/MacOSKen today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/MacOSKen. BetterHelp.com/MacOSKen. And thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's show. The demand for the Pro end of the iPhone 14 line is apparently quite demanding. When he wrote about pre-orders for iPhone 14 last week, TF International analyst Ming-Chi noted the serious skew to the high end of the 14 line, though he wasn't certain whether Apple would increase orders for the Pros. He is now certain. In a series of posts on Twitter on Monday, the analyst said his info has Apple asking Foxconn to shift some of its line work from the consumer-end iPhone 14 to the more expensive iPhone 14 Pros. He says that's due to strong demand for the iPhone 14 Pro models. The way he sees it, the change reflects increased output of the Pro phones of about 10%. While it pretty much goes without saying, the analyst does point out that the focus on more expensive phones will help improve Apple's product mix and iPhone ASP in the fourth quarter of this year. After so many years of making iPhones, it may seem crazy that Apple can still be caught by surprise where demand is concerned. It's worth remembering, though, the company's got a whole planet to think of. Last week saw the release of most of the iPhone 14 line in the US and China, still iPhone's two biggest markets, as well as Australia, Canada, much of Europe, India, Japan, and over 30 other countries. And now they're doing it again. A piece from MacRumors says the company is launching iPhone 14 and the two iPhone 14 Pro models in more than 20 additional countries over the next few weeks. According to the piece, iPhone 14, iPhone 14 Pro, and iPhone 14 Pro Max are set to launch in over 20 additional countries and territories on the 23rd of September, including Malaysia, Turkey, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, and others. Apple has not provided a complete list of the countries. I think I may have come up with a great tagline for the consumer end of Apple's latest iPhones. When you're not looking to upgrade, you're looking for iPhone 14. I got that idea from a list put together by Jose Adorno at 9to5Mac. While people who spend time staring at such things, myself included, see little that's exciting about the iPhone 14 versus the iPhone 13, the 14 is really not a phone for people who've been staring at the 13, unless they were staring at it while waiting for the 14 to come out. Rather, the iPhone 14 at the consumer end is a phone for people whose older phone, iPhone or others, has crapped out and it's time to buy a new one. Factors working in the phone's favor in Adorno's estimation include decent camera upgrades, including the 12-megapixel front-facing camera, action mode, and cinematic mode in 4K, satellite connectivity, crash detection, and greater repairability. Perhaps the most surprising feature on Adorno's list, though, he says iPhone 14 Plus will be a no-brainer upgrade once available. The way he sees it, the importance of this iPhone, which launches at the beginning of October, is that more iPhone users can have a bigger iPhone without the need to spend more to get a bigger screen and battery. Enthusiasts may hear that list and find it laughable, but again, we're not talking about the phone for the enthusiast. Maybe think of the consumer end as the phone for the rest of us. Or them, depending on which camp you put yourself in. When's the last time iFixit heaped praise on Apple? Trick question, it was yesterday. Cult of Mac highlights the self-repair proponents' teardown of iPhone 14. As stated in the aforementioned 9 to 5 Mac list, repairs are significantly easier than the previous iPhones. In fact, the cult has iFixit calling iPhone 14 the most significant design change to the iPhone in a long time and deeming it the most reparable iPhone in years. Rather than just opening from the front, like older iPhones, iPhone 14 opens from the front and back, making the middle, where most of the components live, much more accessible. Also making them easier to fix, less glue and more screws. Removing 2 screws gives access to both the screen and the back glass, according to the cult. For its part, iFixit is downright effusive, saying with the biggest update in years, we're upgrading the iPhone 14 to a repairability score of 7 out of 10. That is the best score we've given an iPhone since the iPhone 7. This is the most reparable iPhone in years. This is such a big deal, they continue, that it should have been Apple's big announcement. The iPhone has been designed from inside out to make it easier to repair. So say people who stare at such things. To be clear, we're talking about the consumer end iPhone 14. The Pro and Pro Max did not get a similar design overhaul. While it seems likely that the larger iPhone 14 Plus will benefit from such a design change, the world won't know for certain until the bigger phone is released on the 7th of October. We'll go bug hunting in just a little bit, but first a word from Notion, one workspace for your whole team and sponsor of today's show. I told you yesterday about how I had used Notion to work out music choices with the folks behind the Mac Observer's Daily Observations podcast. When I decided to use Notion for that, didn't honestly know whether it would work. And yet I had the page ready in about 20 minutes. That is me not knowing what I was doing, staring at a blank page, all the way to a solution in less than half an hour. Not all work collaboration tools are created equal. Some help you organize your company's information. Others allow you to manage projects together. Notion does both. It is one tool for your whole team to do it all, so beautifully designed, everyone will want to use it. If you know what you want to do, the tools are there. You can figure it out on your own like I did, or use the templates and tutorials other Notion users have put together for you. Learn more and get started for free right now at Notion.com. Take the first step toward an organized, happy team today. Go to Notion.com to get started today. Notion. Notion.com. More hardware, more delays. A piece from MacRumors says a few days ahead of their official release date, Apple's second-generation AirPods Pro are seeing significant wait times. Due to be released this Friday, the 23rd of September, the report says the new AirPods Pro are now facing a 2 to 3 week shipping delay on Apple's online store in the US and Canada, Availability varies in other countries, with the units facing a shorter 4 to 6 business day shipping delay in Australia, and still available for this Friday in the UK. The shaking and rattling in cameras in the iPhone 14 Pro line is not a problem for developers, it turns out. I told you Monday of an issue in third-party apps like Snapchat and Instagram that had the camera modules in Apple's latest Pro phones delivering shaky video and making grinding noises while in use. Since it was only happening in third-party applications, not in Apple's own camera, 9to5Mac figured that the problem was on the developer side. It would seem not. A follow-up piece from 9to5Mac has Apple identifying the problem. According to the report, the issue appears to be related to the firmware controlling the optical image stabilization system of the camera lenses. This would manifest with audible rattling inside the camera module, and the output video would be visibly shaking. Seems odd that it's only been spotted in third-party applications, but there it is. Apple says it will fix the issue in a software update. That is expected to hit next week. With one camera fix planned, another issue seems to have cropped up. A piece from 9to5Mac has word of slowness for Apple's camera app on the iPhone 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max. Complaints in the MacRumors forums have folks saying that they're seeing delays of as much as 5 seconds between tapping the camera icon and having the camera actually launch. According to the report, the problem does not happen if the camera app has been manually closed and reopened or after a software restart. It seems to exclusively occur when the camera app has been running in the background. Also, not everybody is seeing this problem, though MacRumors says its folks were able to recreate the issue. That said, they couldn't make it happen every time, just every now and then. The site says a number of its readers have complained to Apple. No mention in the piece on a comment from the Cupertino company. There's an issue with AirDrop across the iPhone 14 line. Another report from MacRumors says the sharing feature is not working for some users of Apple's latest phones when trying to share with a known contact. Like the person is in your contacts, you try to AirDrop them something, and it gets hung up. The piece has readers and forum users indicating that a file sent to a contact shows a waiting message indefinitely, with the person on the other end not receiving a message to accept the AirDrop transfer. The only suggestion anyone has come up with so far is to set AirDrop to everyone instead of contacts. Not the greatest for a couple of reasons. First, the piece points out this workaround is not compatible with password sharing, as sending a password to another person requires both participants to have each other's contact information saved in the iPhone. Additionally, if you forget and leave AirDrop open to everyone, well, you're open to anyone then. Apple is aware of the issue, according to the report. One more bug that seems less of a bug than an annoyance, maybe. I'm not sure where the line is between those two. The Mac Observer has Apple acknowledging an annoyance in iOS 16. The latest version of iOS added a security feature to make sure that users know when an app is copying and pasting info from the clipboard. According to the piece, a pop-up message asks for permission to paste text, images, and more. Apparently it does that a lot, and it's getting on some people's last nerve. One assumes the issue has to do with how often one uses this feature in iOS. I think I've seen that pop up a couple of times since iOS 16 hit, but I don't do a huge amount of copy-paste from one app to another on my iPhone. Apparently the people at Apple don't either. One of the folks on the team that implemented the privacy pop-up says the behavior is not a thing that Apple has seen internally. At the same time, they have heard the complaint from people outside of Apple loud and clear, saying that it is absolutely not expected behavior. The company urges folks to stay tuned for a fix. And finally today, the DOJ is getting its 10 minutes. I told you yesterday that the U.S. Department of Justice had asked to be heard during arguments before the appeals court handling the Epic v. Apple case. The way the DOJ sees it, the judge who handled the trial over alleged antitrust behavior between the two companies made mistakes. And so, the department said the United States believes that its participation at oral argument would be helpful to the court, especially in explaining how the errors in antitrust law interpretation could significantly harm antitrust enforcement beyond the specific context of this case. Well, it looks like they got their wish. A piece from TechCrunch says the U.S. Department of Justice has been granted time to present its own oral arguments during the upcoming Apple v. Epic Games appeal, along with the state of California. They'll not be pulling from anybody's allotted time. The appeals process gives each side 20 minutes to state its appeal. Apple had asked either that the DOJ's 10 minutes come out of Epic's 20, or that the entire proceeding be extended. According to TechCrunch, the DOJ will get 10 minutes of its own. California will get 5 minutes to present its views on how the court should evaluate its consumer protection law, and Apple gets an extra 10 minutes, presumably to respond to arguments presented by California and the DOJ. Today on the Mac Observer's Daily Observations podcast, Jeff Butts, managing editor of the Mac Observer, is back in the house. He and I talked the consumer end of the latest iPhones, plus a look at some of this week's big bugs. That's all today on the Daily Observations podcast from the Mac Observer, online at macobserver.com or wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by Notion, one workspace for your whole team. Learn more and get started for free at Notion.com. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.